It started with headlights, 2 bright cones, cutting across my pasture at midnight. Not a sound except the crunch of gravel and the low hum of an idling SUV. From my porch, I could make out the lettering on the door: Neighborhood Safety Patrol, authorized by HOA. Authorized, sure, but not here. My property sat outside the HOA's, boundary verified on the plat map, surveyed twice, and recorded with the county. Still, they rolled up my private road like it was their turf. I watched the driver step out, clipboard in hand, reflective vest catching the moonlight. He took a few photos of my gate, then tried the latch. Locked. He rattled it anyway. That's when I started recording. Evening, I called out, "You lost." He froze, then turned toward me like I'd just interrupted a mission. "Sir, we've had reports of unauthorized dumping on HOA land." "Just conducting a patrol." "HOA land?" I raised a brow. "You're standing on private property. Mine." He smirked, the kind of smirk that said he'd been briefed by Karen Holloway, herself, the HOA president. She'd tried before to rope me into paying dues, even though my lot was deeded outside their jurisdiction. I'd declined politely. She didn't like that. Now her patrol was testing the fence line. Step back behind the boundary post. I told him, pointing to the orange survey pin near his boot. "That's the legal limit." He hesitated. Then, as if to make a point, he kicked some gravel over it and turned his flashlight on me. That's when I called the sheriff. By the time Deputy Cole arrived, 15 minutes later, the patrol SUV had parked across my driveway, blocking it entirely. Another man had joined in, snapping pictures of my truck, and mailbox. Cole pulled up slow, floodlights sweeping across the road. "Evening, gentlemen," he said, voice low but firm. "Got a reason you're here on private land?" The first patrolman stiffened. "This road's part of the HOA easement. We're authorized to inspect." Cole leaned on his cruiser. "Funny," he said, "because the county GIS says this here's parcel for 1B belongs to Mr. Walker. No HOA encumbrances. No shared easement. So unless you've got a warrant or permission, you're trespassing." The man muttered something about community safety. Cole's tone dropped colder. "Community safety doesn't include violating property lines." They backed off after that slowly, muttering into their radios, but not before I caught their license plates on camera. When the dust settled, Cole gave me a quiet look. "You've had run-ins with them before?" I nodded. "Karen's been trying to muscle me into the HOA for 2 years. This is new night patrols, fake badges, the works." He exhaled through his teeth. "Document everything. These folks cross one more line, it won't be a warning next time." I already was. My doorbell cam, trail cam at the gate, even my drone had captured footage. I backed it all up to the cloud that night. But the more I watched, the more I noticed something off. The HOA SUV didn't just turn around and leave after Cole's warning. It made one more stop half a mile down my road, where it parked for several minutes by my equipment shed. I zoomed in on the footage. One of the patrolmen got out, flashlight in hand, writing something down. What was he documenting? The next morning, I found the answer tire tracks leading right up to the shed door, and a fresh scrape on the lock. That wasn't patrol. That was search and intimidation. I filed a report with the sheriff's office and printed out the footage, timestamps, the survey boundaries, and my property deed. Then I sent a short, polite email to Karen. "Your volunteers trespassed on private property last night. Future incidents will be treated as criminal acts. I've filed a report with the county sheriff." Her reply came an hour later, short and smug. "We are authorized to monitor community access roads for safety. Expect compliance requests soon." That was the moment I knew it wasn't over. They weren't just testing the line anymore. They were preparing to cross it, and I was preparing for evidence. Because next time they came down that road, I wasn't just going to stop them. I was going to prove them wrong, on record, on camera, and in court. 3 days later, the HOA patrol was back. Same SUV, same smug driver. Only this time, I was ready. The sheriff's report hadn't slowed them down. It had emboldened them. Someone must have told them I was bluffing, or that the private road issue was just a gray area. It wasn't. I'd pulled the plat book myself from the county clerk's office. Page 217, parcel for 1B. Clearly stamped, not subject to HOA covenants. So I set a plan at the entrance of my driveway. I mounted a small game cam inside an old birdhouse. It had night vision, motion detection, and GPS tagging. I also dropped an AirTag under the HOA's usual turnaround spot, tucked in the gravel. I wanted to see if they'd been using my road as part of a nightly patrol, route or something worse that night. The AirTag pinged at 11:38 p.m., right at the edge of my property line. I grabbed my phone, my flashlight, and walked out quietly through the dark. The first sound I heard was the hiss of their radio. Unit 1, checking perimeter, recording for HOA security log, said a voice. Perimeter of what? They were 50 feet past the boundary, near my equipment shed again. One guy held a clipboard, the other aimed a flashlight at my fuel drums, muttering something about code compliance. I turned on my camera flashlight and stepped into the beam. Evening, fellas, I said calmly. Both men froze. You're trespassing again, I continued, and before you say HOA jurisdiction, you might want to read this. I handed them a laminated map, my property lines, verified by County Surveyor Grant Mendez 2 years earlier. The HOA's boundary ended nearly 200 feet behind them. According to this, I said, you're standing on land that doesn't belong to your HOA, or anyone but me. The first man, Burke, I learned later, squinted at it. Karen said this whole stretch is covered under the Access Road Clause. Clause 6B, I asked. Yeah, I read that one. It applies to shared easements maintained by dues-paying members. I don't pay dues. In this road, fully deeded to parcel for 1B. Want to test it in court. He stepped back, nervous now. The second guy muttered, we were told to check for illegal structures. Illegal, according to your bylaw, I said. Because last I checked, those bylaws stop where your jurisdiction does. Silence. I lifted my phone higher. You're being recorded on 3 cameras, mine, the birdhouse cam, and that one over the shed. So unless you want a copy of this going straight to the sheriff and the HOAS insurer, I'd suggest you leave, now. They left slowly, headlights flickering on as they reversed down the gravel drive. But that wasn't the end. The next morning, Karen herself showed up in a pressed blazer, clipboard in hand, parked right at the edge of my property. No patrol car this time, just her white Lexus, angled like a commander inspecting her territory. She didn't even knock. She just stood there, filming my gate. Morning, Karen, I said from the porch. You here for a coffee or another boundary violation? Don't play games, Mr. Walker, she said, voice tight. That road is designated as an HOA safety route. We have the right to inspect and regulate access. You can't block it. Safety route. I smiled faintly. Karen, there's no such designation on the county map. I checked. But since you're so confident, why don't we let the sheriff decide again? Her face twitched. You're making this more difficult than it has to be. I'm making it legal, I corrected. Then I took a slow step closer. By the way, your patrol's SUV. It's been tracked by GPS on private property twice. That's documented trespass. If you want to keep this off the record, I suggest you call them off before it escalates. She scoffed, but the crack in her voice gave her away. That evening, I got an email from my friend and Allie Grant, the county surveyor. He'd seen my complaint come across his desk and decided to pull the HOAS boundary files himself. His message was short but golden. You were right. HOA boundary ends at coordinate 117. 3 Westier roads, entirely outside. If they're enforcing anything there, they're violating Title 11 to 134 of the County Property Code. I smiled. That was the nail I needed. Next, I called Deputy Cole again. Handed him Grant's verification, the footage, and the GPS logs from my air. His eyes narrowed. You've got M boxed in, he said. They step 1 foot past that line again. I'll be the one blocking their road with my cruiser. 3 nights later, that's exactly what happened. The night it all came to a head was colder than usual. The kind of cold that carried sound. You could hear tires crunching from half a mile away. At 11:46 p.m., the AirTag pinged again. Same SUV, same route this time coming in faster. I was already awake, lights off, coffee in hand, sitting behind my living room window. The drone hovered quietly over the road, camera live. They'd come back. But tonight, I wasn't the only one waiting. Deputy Cole was parked 2 lots down, lights off. Dashcam rolling. The HOA patrol SUV rolled right past the no trespassing private road sign. Headlights sweeping across my fence. They didn't stop this time. They went straight for the equipment shed again. One man got out, scanning with a flashlight. The other started snapping pictures of my trailer, my fuel drums, even my house. I could hear them faintly through the wind. Karen said he's building without a permit. Let's just document and leave before then. My drone light blinked on, spotlighting them like roaches under glass. The taller one shielded his face, swearing. The other looked straight uphand, froze. That's when Cole's cruiser rolled in. Silent but certain, blue lights igniting the trees. The SUV tried to back up, but Cole angled in behind them. Bumper to bumper. Evening again, gentlemen, he said as he stepped out. Déjà vu, huh? The driver stammered. We were conducting a neighborhood check. Cole cut him off. On private land. After warnings. With prior documentation. That's trespassing under County Code 11-134. Step out of the vehicle. I stepped out from my porch, camera running. Got the footage, if you need it, deputy. Oh, I'll take it, he said. It'll make the report airtight. Cole opened the patrol SUV's rear door. Inside were orange cones, a clipboard marked HOA patrol incident log, and most damning, of a laminated map. The map had my property shaded in red marker with the word, check, weekly written across it. That did it, Cole radioed dispatch. Need a unit for transport. To detain for criminal trespass, possible harassment. The taller man's voice cracked. We were following orders. From who? Cole asked. President Holloway. Cole smirked. Figures. Karen showed up 15 minutes later, robe thrown over her shoulders, barefoot in her Lexus slippers. She stormed up to the scene like she owned it. This is outrageous. These men were doing community service. Cole turned, calmed but iron. Ma'am, your volunteers were on land, not under HOA jurisdiction. You've been warned before. At this point, they're under arrest. She glared at me. You set this up. I smiled faintly. No, Karen, you did. You just didn't read your own bylaws. When the backup car pulled away with her patrol inside, Karen stood there, shaking. You'll regret this, she hissed. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll regret it on my property. 2 weeks later, the county court held a hearing. The evidence was undeniable. Video timestamps from 3 devices, GPS coordinates, proving trespass. The HOA's own map, labeling private land as patrol territory. Karen tried to argue implied access for safety, but the judge shut that down fast. HOA jurisdiction, he said, is contractual, not territorial. You have no implied authority over non-member property. Case closed. The patrolman got misdemeanor trespassing charges and probation. Karen got slapped with a cease and desist order and a personal fine for directing unauthorized enforcement activity. The HOA's insurer dropped their liability coverage within a month. And that private road. The county officially posted a private access, no HOA authority sign, right at the entry, paid for by the HOA themselves. Now, months later, I still drive that road every morning. The gravel crunches, the same. The air feels lighter. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of Karen at the end of the cul-de-sac, watching from a distance. She doesn't wave. She doesn't have to. She learned the hard way that jurisdiction isn't about control. It's about boundaries. And the best way to defend yours isn't noise or threats. It's proof. Because proof doesn't argue. It just wins. If you've ever had an HOA cross your property line, or your patients, tell me your story below. And if you enjoyed seeing a little justice served, hit subscribe. There's plenty more where that came from.